He's preparing us mentally and spiritually. He's preparing us mentally and spiritually. First and foremost, I take about praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. I want to give double honors to the apostles of great mercy who do well. Salutation to the men of the hopeful and sincere elect. This is Brother Marcus out here in Trinidad. I just want to do a little edification for the elect's sake. As I said, the name of the lesson would be He's preparing us mentally and spiritually. All right, and for the times that we're about to enter into, the times it's gonna be some dark days. Some dark days gonna be upon us. It's gonna be famine. It's gonna be death. It's gonna be destruction. The scripture says death is coming to our windows. Says in Jeremiah says the body's gonna be like dung upon the earth. Also says few men left. All right, so a lot of death and destruction is coming. All right, where it's gonna happen because of the sword, because of the famine, because of diseases. All right. And what the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is doing is not only that He given us this word so that we could preach, but He's also preparing us to deal with the horrors that are gonna come. The hearts of men gonna change. Only laughing, only joy, all of that gonna go out the window, and men gonna turn into. Guess what? Some of these, the brothers that you grew up with in this truth. Some of them you're not even going to recognize in that day because they're going to be a whole different individual. And that is why the Lord putting us through all these things that He putting us through so that mentally we could be stable. As the scripture says, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. So that we could be stable-minded and maintain faith, maintain our composure, and maintain our integrity in the days of Jacob's trouble. 2 Ezra chapter 16 and verse 40 says, O my people, hear my word and make you ready to the battle. The Lord making you ready to the battle. He making you ready. He preparing you. He's strengthening you up. All right? The Lord is who's strengthening us. I can do all things through Yahweh that strengthen me. And in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. The Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, He giving us the heads up. He's telling us what gonna come and what to do so that we could prepare. All right, so that we could prepare. There's 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 13. It says, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind. Gird up the loins of your mind. All right, the scripture says, quit you like men, be strong. It says, and be sober. Sober means to be calm, to be collective. All right, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yahweh Mashiach. And what's going to happen at the revelation of Yahweh Mashiach? What it says, let me read this real quick. This is what's going to happen at the revelation of Mashiach. You know what? Let me start here. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Start at 15. It says, for this we say unto you by the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. It says, for the Lord Himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of Yahweh, and the dead in Mashiach shall rise first. All the brothers that died in this faith, all right, and the junior hour of Jacob's trouble, martial law, and be beheaded for the sake of Yahushai. Right? It says, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, in the chariots, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. The scripture says, in a moment, in a twinkle of an eye, we shall be changed. So the glory that we're going to receive, we're going to receive it when the Lord comes and beam us up. And we're going to receive that glory. All right? But before that, we're going to be going through, as the scripture says, a time of great tribulation. All right? So it says, be strong, be sober-minded, so that you can receive the glory. Because if you falter, if you see all trouble and you say, you know what, let me save my flesh, and you go, you take the micro C hip, the MOTB, and you sell out, guess what? You're not going to receive that glory. So you have to maintain your ways unto the end. You have to maintain your ways. The same, he that endure it unto the end, the same shall be saved. All right? This is Matthew 24:13. It says what? It says, but he that endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. All right, you have to endure unto the end of all things. But when you read verse 12, it says, and because iniquity shall abound, a lot of people, even might have brothers and sisters that know not to eat pork, know not to eat iguana, know not to eat unclean foods. All right, know not to eat human. Any time of trouble, when there's famine and there's nothing to eat, they're gonna say, what, F that, I have to eat, I have to feed my family, you're gonna take the micro C hip, gonna feed, because I had a dream years ago, Jacob's trouble, and men were actually going and eating unclean meat because it had no food. All right, men went hunting and they hunted unclean meat. All right, right in the scripture says he suffered them to hunger, that they may know that man shall not live by bread alone. That is the reason why we go catching so much hardship, because the Lord preparing us mentally and spiritually to deal with the horrors that we are about to enter into. That is what the Lord doing, preparing us to deal with the troubles of those days. It says, iniquity shall abound. It says, and the love of many shall wax cold. An episode from The Walking Dead, when the father and his son, they were driving and they passed a guy on the road, and the guy was begging, pleading for help, and he just drove past. They stopped to get supplies, saw the guy again, the guy running, begging and pleading, and they drove off again. And then when they were coming back, they didn't see the guy. All they saw was blood and his knapsack. All right, and he was like, all right, cool, and he went his way. In the good times, he would have been like, shit, hey, let me help this guy. But now he's like, hey, every man for himself. And that is what we're gonna enter into. A time where men not gonna be caring about anybody. Every man for himself. But we can't be like that. We can't be so amongst the men of the Lord. That is why the Lord said wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. We have to be stable-minded. We have to be sober in that day. We have to be calm. We have to be collected. We have to have our right senses. We can't let, human nature of survival overtake us, where we just say, what, F that, and then we start doubting, and then we say, what, probably prophecies weren't true, and you doubting, but you seeing exactly what you were prophesying about happening, but yet you doubting that the prophecy is true. You can't let, this flesh win you over. In the time of Jacob's trouble, you have to conquer the flesh now, so that in the time of Jacob's trouble, it will be easy to deal with. That is why the Lord putting us through so much pressure, so much cuts and bruises right now, so that we may learn to suffer, learn to endure. All right. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 9. It says, but we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in Yahweh Hashem Yahshai, which raised the dead. So that is why we had the sentence of death. We going through so much hell that we had to learn, we had to submit to the Lord, because only Yahweh Hashem Yahshai could help us. The Lord is who can help us. So we grow faith. When it says, when all the armies were coming at Judas Maccabees, and Judas had full faith in the Lord. You know why Judas had full faith in the Lord? Because he trusted in the Lord, and because he saw that the Lord will often help him. And now if we in these times, we see the Lord often helping us, pulling us out of predicaments, pulling us out of situations at last minute, when you really, trouble too much in the spirit, but you don't know where you're gonna get help from. So it's like, what, all right, if this how we're gonna be, this how we're gonna be, and last minute, the Lord steps in, the Lord intervenes. Because why? Because you did not. The scripture says, make no haste in the time of trouble. You didn't make haste. You didn't make haste to do some nigger shit. And that is the same calmness you have to have in the time of Jacob's trouble, to depend solely on the Lord. Pray and beg on the Lord and wait for his mercies. We need it. We're going to need it. You are going to need it. Maintain your integrity. Maintain your integrity is key in the time of trouble. All right, don't sell out. And sell out could be selling out your brothers. It could be taken in microscope. It could be eaten on clean meats. Don't sell out. All right? Don't sell out. This is the final precept here. This is 1 Peter 5 and verse 10. It says, humble, not Salak. Hey, you know what? That is probably the Spirit. So I'm going to read that. 1 Peter 5 and 6. It says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hands of Yahweh Shemi Shai. All right? So humble yourself, that he may exalt you in due time. So humble yourself in the time of trouble, and in due time he will lift you out of your low estate. Cast all, not some, all your care upon him, for he cared for you. The Lord cared for you. All right? If the Lord caused the rain to fall on the just and the unjust, how much more he will care about you that did his work sincerely. All right? Verse 10. It says, but the God of all grace, who had called us unto his eternal glory by Yahushua Mashiach, after that ye have suffered for a while, make you perfect. All right? Established. Established means firm. Firm. All right? Means you're not moving. You're rooted and grounded in this truth. All right? You say, nah, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to serve the Lord. And if I had to die, I'm going to be like the woman and the 7 sons in Maccabees. And guess what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to maintain my integrity. Strengthen, settle you. Settle you. Settle your mind. Not, the army coming. And we have no food. I'm a children. And what going to do? And they're going to rape my wife. And like, now you're going to be like somebody have to get a spiritual smacking in your face and like, hey, calm the hell down. Calm down. Calm down. You can't be like that. That is why the Lord called men. That is something women will do. Bug out. You can't bug out any time of trouble. You need to keep a sane and a settled mind. Because if you don't, you will do nigger shit. If you don't keep a settled mind. That is why the Lord preparing us mentally and spiritually. So with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shemi Shai. I want to give double honors to the apostles of great mercy and do well. Salutation to the men of the hopeful and sincere elect. This is your brother Marcus out here in Trinidad saying shalom and stay strong. Shalom.